Lieutenant Aaron Blake had seen a lot of strange things since joining the Galactic Peace Fleet. Ships made of liquid metal, planets with singing oceans, even a moon that glowed brighter when you told it jokes. But nothing prepared him for her. She stood across the mess hall like a sculpture made of starlight. Silver skin shimmered with faint blue tones, her long hair flowed like silk through gravity's fingers, and her eyes, violet and bright as twin novas, were fixed on a small datapad she held delicately between long, elegant fingers. She was Zelari, from the 5th Nebula Fleet, one of the most advanced species in the known galaxy. And Aaron. He was a mechanic from Earth who'd barely passed xenocultural etiquette class. He was also starring. He didn't mean to. He had only meant to glance. But one glance turned into two, then three, and then his sandwich slipped from his hand and splattered across the floor in slow-motion glory. A splat that echoed through the hall like a small explosion of shame. Every head turned, including hers. Arixa, that was her name, he remembered suddenly, lifted her gaze from her datapad and met his eyes. Her expression was unreadable at first, calm and alien, but then one of her silver brows lifted ever so slightly. She tilted her head, studying him as though he were a curious new experiment. Aaron froze. His brain screamed at him to look away. His mouth, being the traitorous part of his anatomy that it was, decided to speak instead. "Oh, hi," he said brilliantly. She blinked, her eyes shimmering faintly as she approached, each step graceful, almost floating. When she finally stood before him, Aaron realized she was taller than him by a few inches, which somehow made her even more intimidating and more breathtaking. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The mess hall's quiet hum filled the space between them. Then, softly, she leaned closer, her voice smooth and melodic, the words carrying an otherworldly rhythm. "Human," she whispered, her tone curious rather than harsh. "Why are you watching me?" Aaron's throat went dry. His brain flipped through excuses like a bad comedian searching for a punchline. Research," he blurted finally. "Cultural research, eye contact. It's an important part of human bonding rituals, for you know science." Her lips curved into what might have been a smile. It was small, almost teasing. "You bond by starring." "Only respectfully," he said quickly, and clumsily. Her violet eyes softened, amusement flickering within. "Then perhaps your research is incomplete." Aaron laughed awkwardly, trying not to notice how her voice seemed to hum through him like music. "Probably. I'm still, gathering data." "Then you may continue," she said, stepping back slightly. "But next time," she glanced down at his ruined sandwich, "try not to drop your food." He looked at the floor, cheeks burning. "Yeah, that's fair." She gave a small, musical laugh, the kind that made nearby crew members look up, startled, because Zelari didn't usually laugh. And just like that, she turned and walked away, her hair shimmering as she disappeared down the corridor, leaving a faint trail of light in her wake. Aaron stood there for a moment, half smiling, half mortified. He just made a complete fool of himself, in front of the most beautiful alien he'd ever seen. But he didn't regret it. Later that day, Aaron sat in the engineering bay, surrounded by wires, half-functional panels, and the comforting scent of coolant oil. It was his home away from home, messy, loud, and full of things that made sense when people didn't. He kept thinking about her, Arixa, the way she'd said human like it was both a question and a challenge, the way she smiled just barely, the way she made the air feel alive. "You're doing it again," said a voice behind him. Aaron turned to see his friend, Specialist Rin, a short, blue-skinned vari-engineer leaning against the doorframe, smirking. "You're smiling at the wall like an idiot." "I'm not," Aaron said quickly. "He was." Rin snorted. "Let me guess. The Zelari scientist, silver hair, terrifying posture, eyes like cosmic radiation." Aaron tried to look casual. "Maybe." Good luck, buddy. They don't do feelings. They reproduce through energy bonding or something. They think emotions are inefficient. Yeah, but so are humans, Aaron said. And we still manage to run the galaxy's most stubborn ships. Rin sighed. Just don't blow up the reactor trying to impress her. Aaron grinned. No promises. The next morning, Aaron grabbed a tray in the mess hall, scanning the crowd. He told himself he wasn't looking for her, that he just wanted coffee. But his heart sped up anyway when he spotted the familiar shimmer of silver skin near the far table. She was alone again, reading, calm and perfect as ever. Aaron hesitated. Don't do it, he told himself. She's way out of your league, probably doesn't even like mammals. But his feet moved anyway. He walked over, balancing his tray like a peace offering. Mind if I sit? Arixa looked up. Her expression softened and she gestured gracefully. You may. I suppose your research continues. He sat, trying to hide his grin. Strictly professional, of course. Of course, she said, voice dry but not unkind. Tell me, Lieutenant Blake, what have you learned from your cultural study? He leaned back, pretending to think deeply. That Zelari have a sense of humor. Her eyes flickered with amusement again. A dangerous discovery. You should document it. Already am, he said, tapping his datapad dramatically. She tilted her head. You are unlike most humans I've met. Thanks, I think. They usually try to impress. You simply exist. Aaron laughed. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me today. For a long moment they sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift beyond the viewing window. She studied him occasionally, eyes bright with curiosity, as though she couldn't quite decide what kind of creature he was. And Aaron, for once, didn't feel the need to fill the silence with words. Just being near her felt enough. Then she said softly, almost to herself, humans are strange, but not unpleasant. He smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. It was, she said, her lips curving faintly again, a small one. He chuckled. I'll earn a bigger one someday. She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly violet in the light. We shall see, human. And for a heartbeat, it felt like the universe itself had paused, watching, waiting, smiling. That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. He kept replaying her voice in his head, that whisper that had started it all. Human, why are you watching me? He didn't have an answer then. But maybe he was starting to find one. Aaron didn't see Arixa again for 3 days. 3 long, painfully slow days filled with work, noise, and thoughts he couldn't shake. Every time the intercom crackled or the lift doors opened, he half expected to see that shimmer of silver and violet. But she didn't come by the mess hall, the corridors, or the labs he was fixing. He told himself it didn't matter, that she was a brilliant alien scientist, and he was just the human engineer who broke things and glued them back together with duct tape. But deep down, he missed her voice. He missed the way she said human, soft but curious, like it was a word she was learning to love. On the 4th day, Aaron was working in the engineering bay, elbow-deep in a plasma conduit that had started humming for no reason. Sparks danced around him, the air thick with heat and ozone. His shirt was half open, sleeves rolled, face streaked with grease. The standard uniform of a man one bad spark away from an explosion. He didn't hear her approach. You humans enjoy working near dangerous energy. The voice startled him. He jerked up so fast he smacked his head against the panel with a loud clang. Stars, he cursed, clutching his forehead. Arixa, you walk really quietly. She stood there calm as moonlight, her hands clasped behind her back. Her silver skin caught the glow from the plasma lines, making her look almost radiant. You were distracted, she said softly. That seems common for your species. Aaron grinned, trying to hide his embarrassment. We call it multitasking. Or poor survival instinct, she replied, a small smile tugging at her lips. He chuckled and wiped his hands on his uniform. What brings you here? You planning to file another report on human engineering chaos? I was curious, she said. Your repair techniques fascinate me. They seem unscientific yet effective. He reached into a toolbox, pulled out a roll of silver duct tape and held it up proudly. This, he declared, is humanity's greatest invention. Erixa blinked. That is adhesive film. Exactly, he said. It can fix leaks, patch armor, hold panels together, seal airlocks, and even stop emotional breakdowns if you wrap enough of it around yourself. Her violet eyes gleamed with amusement. Primitive, inelegant, yet she leaned closer, her expression thoughtful, somehow beautiful. He raised an eyebrow. Beautiful duct tape. I meant, she said quietly, the idea. You make things work when logic says they should not. That is beautiful. For a moment, Aaron forgot to breathe. Her words hit him deeper than he expected. Not because of what she said, but how she said it, like she meant more than just the tape. He smiled slowly. You have no idea how rare that compliment is. She tilted her head. Then I will repeat it only once. Treasure it. He laughed, shaking his head. You're something else, you know that. I am Zelari, she said simply, but there was warmth in her tone now, a softness that hadn't been there before. They worked side by side for hours, her analyzing readings while he adjusted circuits. Every time their hands brushed near the same tool, there was a faint spark, static maybe, or something more. At one point, she crouched beside him to inspect a plasma node. Her scent, faintly metallic, like rain on hot stone, filled his lungs. He glanced at her, trying to focus on the readout, but her proximity scrambled his thoughts. You are starring again, she said without looking up. Observation, he replied smoothly, still part of my research. You humans study everything you desire. He hesitated, then smiled. Sometimes. She met his gaze then, her eyes glowing faintly violet in the dim light. Curious, you speak like you are not afraid of wanting things. Aaron's voice lowered. Should I be? Eric's expression softened. On my world, wanting can lead to chaos. Desire clouds logic. Emotion leads to ruin. He smiled sadly. On Earth, it's what keeps us alive. She looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to understand that truth. You confuse me, human. I get that a lot, he said gently. Then something unexpected happened. The conduit they'd been fixing gave a sudden, angry hiss, and a pulse of energy shot through the chamber. Sparks rained down. The lights flickered. Move, Aaron shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her to the floor as a burst of plasma fire arced overhead. The explosion scorched the wall where she'd been standing seconds ago. When the noise faded, they stayed there close, breathing fast, his arm still around her shoulders. Are you hurt? He asked, voice rough. She shook her head slowly, her silver hair brushing against his cheek. No, you shielded me. He gave a crooked smile. Reflex comes free with the human package. For a moment they didn't move. Her heartbeat, a faint, rhythmic hum, pulsed against his arm. Her eyes searched his face with something new, something unguarded. Why, she whispered, why risk injury for me? Aaron hesitated, then smiled faintly. Because you matter, because that's what we do. She didn't look away. You risk your life for people you barely know. Sometimes, he said softly, that's how we get to know them. Erixa blinked slowly, as if tasting the meaning of his words. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a clear, melodic sound that filled the whole bay. You are a reckless creature, Aaron Blake. He grinned. You remembered my name. I remember all anomalies, she teased gently. When they finally stood, the damage was minor. Together they finished the repair, her precision balanced by his stubborn improvisation. It was a dance of science and chaos, logic and heart. And somewhere between the circuits and sparks, something subtle began to change between them. As they wrapped up, Erixa looked at him with quiet curiosity. You make me question things I was certain of. He looked at her with a small, playful smile. Good, keeps life interesting. She turned, pausing at the door. Perhaps your research will continue tomorrow. I'll bring more duct tape, he said. She tilted her head, eyes shining. Then I will bring equations. We shall see which is stronger. As she left, Aaron stood alone in the hum of the bay, feeling like the universe had just shifted slightly. Maybe it was small, a shared laugh, a spark, a near miss, but something about Eric's smile stayed with him. He sat back against the wall, closing his eyes and let himself grin. Yeah, he whispered to the empty room, definitely stronger. Outside, the ship drifted quietly through a sea of stars, and somewhere down the hall, a Zelari scientist found herself smiling too, though she couldn't quite explain why. She only knew one thing: the human had saved her, and for the first time in her life, logic didn't have an answer for what she was feeling. It was warm, unpredictable, and terrifying. It was human. The stars outside the viewport glowed like spilled diamonds, and Aaron sat alone in the observation deck, watching them drift past. The ship was quiet at this hour, only the hum of the engines and the distant chatter of night shift crew. He liked this time. The silence. The feeling that the universe was breathing slowly, waiting for something. He wasn't waiting for anything. Except maybe her. Ever since the accident in engineering, Arixa had been on his mind constantly. The way she had laughed afterward, soft and bright, like she was surprised her voice could sound that way. The way she had looked at him, not like a specimen, but like someone she wanted to understand. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He'd seen her in the halls once or twice, passing quickly, a polite nod, a flicker of violet eyes. She was busy, of course. Zelari scientists were always busy. They studied everything, cataloged everything. Aaron didn't mind. He liked the chase. So when the soft hiss of the observation deck doors opened, he didn't even need to turn. He knew. He felt it. "You are here again," Eric's voice said, quiet and calm, but there was a smile hiding beneath it. Aaron grinned. "Could say the same about you." "I came to watch the binary stars," she said, stepping closer. The glow from the viewport lit her face, painting her silver skin in shades of gold and blue. "They are rare in this sector." "They're beautiful," Aaron said softly, though he wasn't looking at the stars. She turned to him, her expression curious. "You humans always compare everything to beauty." "Because it's the best thing we've got," he said with a shrug. "If something makes your chest feel light, if it makes you forget everything for a second, that's beauty." Arixa tilted her head. "And you think I do that?" Aaron hesitated. "I think you make breathing complicated." Her lips curved just a little. "Then perhaps you should breathe slower." He laughed quietly. "You make that sound easy." They stood together in silence for a while, watching the twin suns burn in the distance. The light shimmered through the glass, reflecting in her violet eyes. She looked at peace, and that made Aaron's heart feel strange, like it had been waiting for this calm too. After a moment he reached into his pocket. "I brought you something." Arixa turned, cautious curiosity flickering across her face. "You brought me a gift." He held out a small silver-wrapped piece of candy. "It's called a Hershey's Kiss. It's a human thing." She took it carefully, her long fingers brushing his. "It is very small." "Yeah, but it's powerful," he said with a grin. "Sweetest thing in the galaxy." She turned it in her palm. "It looks metallic. You eat this." "Promise it won't kill you?" "Probably." Her eyes narrowed playfully. "Your definition of safe worries me." "Just try it," he said. "Trust me." She peeled the foil back slowly, inspecting the small brown shape. "It smells rich." "That's chocolate," Aaron said, proud. "Pure happiness." She hesitated, then took a careful bite. Her pupils widened. She blinked, swallowed, then looked at him like he had just introduced her to fire. "This," she said slowly, "this is illegal pleasure." Aaron burst out laughing. "Welcome to humanity." She looked at the candy again, as if unsure whether to finish it or worship it. You give this to your friends. He smiled softly. Sometimes, but it's usually for someone special. Her voice lowered, and I am special. Aaron froze for a second. I think so. Erixa looked at him, her eyes unreadable now. Then very quietly she said, on Virel Prime, giving food to another is a sign of courtship. His heart jumped. Courtship. It is symbolic, a promise to share energy, to bond. Aaron blinked. So I just accidentally proposed. Her expression didn't change, but her glow dimmed slightly. In a sense, yes. Well, he said, rubbing the back of his neck, that explains the weird look from that officer earlier. You do not regret it, she asked. He smiled. Depends, would you say yes? Erixa stared at him, caught between shock and laughter. You are impossible. Hey, you're the one who said it's a bond. I'm just following cultural protocol. She shook her head, but the small, almost shy smile on her face told him everything. You do not fear consequences. I fear missing chances more, he said softly. Her expression softened again. You speak so easily of feelings. On my world, emotion is private, controlled. Yeah, he said, looking out at the stars again. On Earth, we mess it up all the time, but we keep trying anyway. She stepped closer then, so close he could see the faint pulse of light beneath her skin. You are very strange, human. And you, he said, his voice barely a whisper, are the most fascinating thing I've ever met. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, electric, the kind that said more than words could. Then the ship's intercom crackled. Attention, all personnel, prepare for hyperjump. Secure all stations. Erixa blinked, stepping back just enough to break the moment. Duty calls. Always does, Aaron said, forcing a grin. Same time tomorrow. Perhaps, she said, walking toward the door. But before it closed behind her, she turned slightly and added, bring more of that chocolate. When she was gone, Aaron leaned back against the glass and let out a slow breath. His heart was still racing. He wasn't sure what just happened, but he knew it mattered. Later, lying in his bunk, he thought about her words again. A Virel bonding ritual, a human love story, a piece of chocolate bridging two worlds. It was absurd, it was beautiful, it was so human. And somewhere deep in the ship, in a quiet lab filled with glowing instruments, Erixa held the small silver wrapper in her hand, staring at it as if it were the most confusing thing in the universe. She didn't understand why her pulse had quickened when he smiled, or why her skin warmed when he said her name. She didn't understand humans at all. But she wanted to. She wanted to understand him. When the ship jumped into hyperspace, streaks of light tearing across the stars, two hearts, one human, one alien beat in quiet rhythm, each trying to make sense of something neither of them could name. The universe stretched wide around them, full of danger and wonder, but for once it felt smaller, like it was bringing them closer, one heartbeat at a time. For 2 days, Erixa avoided him. Aaron noticed it first during the morning shift briefing. She stood across the room, calm and composed, eyes fixed on the holoscreen. Not once did she glance his way. When the meeting ended, she vanished down the corridor before he could even say hello. The next day was the same. No nods, no smiles, not even a polite human. He tried not to take it personally. Maybe she was busy. Maybe Virel scientists had some kind of meditation retreat that involved ignoring engineers. But deep down, a knot of worry grew tighter in his chest. He missed her voice, her quiet curiosity, even the way she tilted her head when he said something stupid. By the 3rd day, he couldn't stand it anymore. He found her in the xenobiology lab, surrounded by glowing tanks and soft humming machines. The air smelled faintly of ozone and flowers. She was bent over a console, her long fingers moving gracefully over controls. She didn't look up when he entered. Hey, Aaron said, trying for casual. You've been avoiding me, or did I break the wrong law this time? No response, just the quiet sound of data scrolling. He took a step closer. Arixa. Her voice came out cool, distant. You should not be here. That stung. I was worried, he said softly. Did I do something wrong? Now she looked at him. Her violet eyes glowed brighter than usual, but there was tension in them. You gave me a bonding food. He blinked. A what? The chocolate, she said, as if the word itself carried danger. On Virel Prime, to share a sweet with another is to declare intent, a promise of connection. Aaron frowned. You mean? Yes, she said sharply, cutting him off. You offered a courtship token. He stared at her for a long moment, then rubbed the back of his neck. Well, I didn't mean to propose. Her tone softened slightly. Then you understand why this must end. I cannot risk misinterpretation. It is unprofessional. Aaron stepped forward. Wait, that's it. You're just going to erase what we had because of a misunderstanding. What we had was conversation, she said, but her voice wasn't steady. And curiosity, nothing more. Nothing more, he repeated quietly. Her eyes flickered. Curiosity is dangerous, she whispered, especially when it feels like something else. He took another step toward her. Feels like what? She turned away, her shoulders tense. I do not wish to discuss this. He wanted to argue, to make her look at him, but the sadness in her voice stopped him. He sighed. You know, you Zelari have all these rules about logic and restraint, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're afraid to feel something real. Her hand froze on the console. You presume much human. I'm good at that, he said softly. We all are. That's how we survive. We guess, we leap, we mess up, but we feel, and we keep going. She turned then, eyes shining faintly. And where has that brought your species? Wars, chaos, extinction-level mistakes. He smiled faintly. Yeah, but also art, music, love, things worth fighting for. For a moment the air between them seemed to pulse. Her breath came faster, and he saw something break in her calm mask, a flicker of confusion, maybe fear, or maybe it was something deeper. She took a small step toward him, then stopped. You confuse me, Aaron Blake. He smiled gently. I could say the same about you. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something more, but then the intercom blared to life. All crew to emergency stations. Radiation storm incoming. Secure all decks immediately. The lights turned red. The hum of the ship grew louder. Erix's eyes widened. My lab, she said. The containment field. Let's go, Aaron said, already moving. They ran together through the corridors, alarms echoing around them. The radiation surge was fast, stronger than expected. The ship shook under the storm's force. When they reached her lab, warning lights flared across every surface. The containment field protecting the energy cores was flickering dangerously. Arixa darted to the control console. The field is destabilizing. I must recalibrate the flow. Aaron saw the readings. You'll fry yourself if you stay here. I have to stabilize it. He didn't argue. He jumped to the secondary panel, hands flying across switches and wires. I'll handle the manual override. You handle the calculations. She glanced at him. You do not understand Zelari systems. He grinned. You're forgetting my specialty, making things work when logic says they shouldn't. The field pulsed again, the energy whining louder. Sparks flew from the main conduit. Erix's hands trembled slightly as she recalibrated the magnetic flow. The storm outside roared, shaking the walls. Power surging, Aaron shouted. We've got 1 minute before the core breaches. Erixa looked at him, panic flashing across her usually calm face. We cannot fix this in time. Watch me, he said, teeth gritted. He yanked open a side panel and reached into the mess of wires, rerouting them by instinct. The smell of burning insulation filled the air. His hands burned, but he didn't stop. Then silence. The hum evened out. The field glowed steady blue again. Arixa froze. It worked. Aaron leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Told you, duct tape would have been faster. She turned to him, eyes wide with something like disbelief. You risked your life for my lab. For you, he corrected softly. She stared at him for a long moment. The silence was heavy now, filled with unspoken words. You are a fool, she whispered. He smiled weakly. Yeah, but I'm your fool. Arixa took a slow step closer, her hand hovering near his burnt one. Your species, you are reckless, emotional, unpredictable. And you like that, he said. Her voice trembled. I do not understand it. He met her gaze. You don't have to. Then carefully she touched his hand. The contact was gentle, but the heat between them was real. She didn't pull away. For a moment, everything else, the alarms, the storm, the chaos, disappeared. There was only her, the silver glow of her skin, and the quiet rhythm of two hearts beating in sync. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. You make me feel things I have no words for. Aaron smiled softly. That's okay. I've got plenty of words. I can lend you some. She gave a small, trembling laugh, a sound that felt like victory. Outside, the radiation storm began to fade. Inside, the air was warm and still. She didn't move her hand away from his. Neither of them wanted to. For the first time in her life, Arixa let herself simply feel. And for the first time in a long time, Aaron felt like he'd finally found something, someone, worth all the chaos in the universe. Maybe love didn't need to make sense. Maybe it just needed to survive the storm. The storm had passed, but the ship still trembled like it was catching its breath. Half the lights flickered, engineers were shouting over the comms, and the scent of burnt circuits filled the corridors. Yet in the middle of the chaos, Aaron couldn't stop smiling. He and Arixa had survived, together. They walked side by side through the dim hallways, silent for a long time. The emergency lights painted them in soft red glows, and every step echoed like a heartbeat. Arixa's hands were clasped behind her back, her posture as calm as ever, but Aaron could see the faint glow under her skin, that soft pink hue she got when her emotions slipped past her control. Finally he broke the silence. So, that went well. Arixa gave him a sideways glance. We almost died. Yeah, he said with a grin, but together. She exhaled softly, though her lips curved slightly upward. You are proud of this. Of course, every near-death experience is a good story, especially when it involves saving a brilliant alien scientist. Her step slowed. You flatter too easily. Only when it's true. They reached the elevator to the upper decks. For a few seconds neither spoke. The doors closed and the hum of the lift surrounded them in quiet. Aaron glanced at her, trying to read the unreadable. You were amazing in there, he said. Quick thinking. I don't think anyone else could have stabilized the field that fast. I almost failed, she said softly. You risked your life to compensate for my miscalculation. Hey, he said, shrugging. Humans are built for chaos. You're built for logic. Together we make a great team. She looked at him thoughtfully. Perhaps too good a team. Meaning? Meaning, she said carefully, you make me forget logic, and that is dangerous. Aaron smiled. Then maybe logic needs a vacation. Her eyes glowed faintly violet. You speak as if emotion is strength. It is, he said. That's what makes us human. We break rules for the right reasons. And what is the right reason this time? He met her gaze. You. The lift stopped with a gentle chime. Arixa stood still, her expression unreadable. When the doors opened, she stepped out first, but before she disappeared into the corridor, she said softly, Be careful, human. You make it very hard to think clearly. Aaron leaned against the elevator wall, smiling to himself. Good, he murmured. Maybe thinking overrated. Hours later, the ship's emergency repairs were underway. Aaron found himself in the medical bay, hands bandaged, body sore. He hated being still, but orders were orders. He kept glancing toward the door, hoping she'd come by. Every time it opened, his chest jumped. Then finally she appeared. Erixa entered quietly, holding a small crystal tablet. "I came to deliver your post-incident report," she said, voice even. "Report, huh?" he said, trying not to grin. "Nothing else." Her lips twitched. "I also came to confirm that you are functional." "I'm more than functional," he said. "I'm fantastic. You should have seen the doctor's face when I told him I fixed a reactor with my bare hands." "I saw your hands," she said, glancing at the bandages. "They are not a success story." "Hey, minor burns are part of the adventure." She sighed, though her tone was lighter now. "You truly find excitement in everything." "Only when you're around." Her violet eyes lifted to his, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink. Just her and him and the quiet hum of the med bay. Then she looked down, tracing the edge of the tablet with her thumb. "When I was young, my mentor told me that humans were volatile, that you would ruin anything you touched with your emotions." "Sounds accurate," Aaron said with a grin. "But we also fix things, sometimes better than before." She looked at him again, something tender hidden behind her calm tone. "I think he was wrong. Your chaos is alive. It makes everything brighter." He smiled softly. "You know, that's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." "I do not offer compliments lightly." "I noticed," he said. "That's why I'll remember this one." Before she could respond, the ship trembled again. Not violently, just a small shake, like a ripple through the hull. The lights flickered briefly and the intercom buzzed. "Attention crew," the captain's voice said. "Stellar radiation has stabilized. All systems returning to normal. Excellent work, everyone." Erixa relaxed slightly, then turned back to Aaron. "You may return to duty tomorrow. Until then, rest." He tilted his head. "Doctor's orders." "Mind." He chuckled. "I'll follow those." When she left, she didn't walk straight out. She paused by the door, glancing back once. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Do not make me worry again." "You worried?" he asked. Her glow brightened faintly. "A logical concern for a crew member," she said quickly. "Sure," he said with a teasing smile. "Totally logical." The door slid shut, but Aaron couldn't stop grinning. Later that evening, when he was released from the med bay, he wandered to the observation deck again. The stars were calm now, steady, quiet. The storm was far behind them. He stood there, leaning on the rail, and thought of her. He didn't notice when the door opened, but he felt it, that soft shift in the air that meant she was there. "You are always looking at the stars," she said behind him. "They make good company," he said, "but you're better." Erixa walked beside him, her reflection shimmering in the glass. "The storm is over," she said quietly. "Outside maybe," he said. "Inside still a bit of lightning." She tilted her head, a small smile ghosting across her face. "Human expressions are strange." "Yeah," he said, "so are human hearts." For a long moment neither spoke. Then she said softly, "I tried to understand what you meant before, when you said emotion is strength." "And I think," she said, "it is contagious." He looked at her surprised. "You're saying I'm contagious?" "Yes," she said, her lips curving faintly. "You make me feel things I do not have names for." Aaron smiled. "That's kind of our specialty." She turned to face him fully now, her eyes glowing softly. "And if I do not wish to stop feeling them?" He stepped closer, the air between them warm and still. "Then don't." For the first time she didn't pull back. Her hand reached up, resting gently on his chest, right over his heart. The faint hum of her energy vibrated through him. "This is irrational," she whispered. "Most good things are," he whispered back. The stars outside flared brighter, bathing them in silver light. Neither moved, neither spoke. In that moment there were no rules, no logic, no galaxies between them, just a human and an alien standing in quiet defiance of everything they were told they couldn't be. Then softly she said, Perhaps logic can wait until tomorrow. Aaron smiled. Finally, something we agree on. And when her fingers lingered on his heart just a second longer, he thought, for the first time in his life, that the universe might actually be rooting for him. The next morning, the ship glided quietly through open space. The storm had faded, the alarms had gone silent, and the stars looked calm again, but Aaron couldn't stop replaying the night before. Eric's hand on his chest, the soft glow of her skin, the way her voice trembled when she said perhaps logic can wait until tomorrow. He hadn't slept much. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her standing there, silver light reflected in her eyes, like she carried part of the universe inside her. He couldn't remember the last time someone made him feel this alive. When his shift started, he threw himself into work, hoping it would calm him down. But every wrench he turned, every panel he opened, seemed to whisper her name. He was halfway through repairing a coolant valve when the door hissed open. He didn't even need to look up to know who it was. "Human," Erixa said softly from the doorway. He grinned without turning around. "You know I have a name." "I know," she said, stepping closer, "but it sounds different when I say human." He looked over his shoulder, smiling. "Then keep saying it." She tilted her head, pretending not to smile back. "You are working too soon. You should still be resting." "I rest when the galaxy stops breaking," he said, tightening a bolt. "So never." She came to stand beside him, her hands clasped neatly behind her back. "You risked much yesterday," she said quietly. "More than you should have." He shrugged. "Worth it." "For what?" she asked. He turned then, meeting her gaze. "For you." Her violet eyes shimmered, and for a second she didn't move or breathe. Then she said softly, "You are reckless." "Absolutely," he said. "It's kind of my charm." She shook her head but couldn't hide the faint glow spreading under her skin. "Your charm will get you killed one day. Then I hope you'll be there to yell at me when it happens." She let out a soft laugh, and the sound made something warm flutter in his chest. It was so rare to hear her laugh, like music from another world. "I have analyzed you, Aaron Blake," she said, changing the subject with that usual Zelari seriousness. "You act without logic, yet somehow the outcome favors you more often than it should." He raised an eyebrow. "You ran tests on me." "Observations," she corrected quickly, "for science." "Right," he said, grinning, "for science." Her glow brightened just a little. "You are not supposed to make that sound so suggestive." "Not my fault everything sounds romantic when you say it," he teased. She frowned in mock confusion. "Romantic?" He leaned closer. "Like when two people decide they'd rather face death together than be apart." Her eyes softened. "That is not efficient." "Neither is breathing sometimes," he said, his voice low. "But we do it anyway." For a long moment they just stood there. The hum of the ship filled the air, steady and calm. Then she said quietly, "You make simple things sound like poetry." He smiled. "And you make logic sound like music." That made her pause, caught off guard. "Music?" "Yeah, every time you talk, I feel like the stars are tuning themselves." She looked down, her skin glowing faintly pink again. "Your words are dangerous." "So are your eyes," he said. She looked up, and for a heartbeat time stopped. Then she whispered, "You should not look at me like that." "Why not?" he asked. "Because I cannot think when you do." He took a step closer, close enough to feel the faint warmth radiating from her. "Maybe that's the point." Before she could respond, the ship suddenly shook. A deep vibration rattled the floor beneath them. Warning lights flashed red across the bay. Erixa spun toward the control console. "Impact detected. Something hit the outer hull." Aaron ran to the nearest panel, scanning the readings. "Meteor debris field. Big one." "The shields were not engaged," she said quickly. "Manual override is needed." He grinned. "Guess that's my department." They rushed through the corridor toward the defense control room, alarms echoing around them. The lights flickered, the floor trembled, and a dull boom rippled through the ship as another meteor struck. When they reached the panel, sparks flew from the wall. "Systems are overloaded," Erixa said. "We must reroute power from the auxiliary grid." Aaron opened a hatch already working. "You handle the codes, I'll handle the mess." "You cannot do this alone," she warned. "Good thing I'm not alone," he said. Together they worked fast, her precision and his improvisation merging perfectly. She input long streams of alien commands while he tore out fried wires and replaced them by hand. Every time another impact hit, the whole ship jolted, but neither of them stopped. "Almost there," Aaron shouted. "Final command sequence, now." The moment she pressed the last key, the ship's lights steadied, and the red alarms faded to calm blue. The hum of the engines returned to normal. Outside, the meteors drifted harmlessly past, the shield glowing like a silver dome. Erixa exhaled slowly, shoulders relaxing, stabilized. Aaron leaned back against the wall, grinning through the sweat on his face. "Told you chaos and logic. Works every time." She turned to him, her eyes soft again. "You are impossible, Aaron Blake." He laughed. "I've been told that." But then her expression changed, quieter, gentler. She stepped closer, her voice lower. "You saved the ship again." "Team effort," he said. "You did most of the thinking." "And you did most of the risking," she said. "Again." He smiled faintly. "That's kind of my thing." "Then perhaps," she said, "you should find a new thing." He chuckled. "What, and give up my heroic reputation?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached up slowly and brushed a bit of soot from his cheek with her fingers. The touch was light but electric. He froze. "You always stand too close to danger," she whispered. "It makes my pulse unstable." He looked at her, his smile fading into something softer. "I guess we both have the same problem." Her hand lingered for a second longer before she let it drop. "You are a mystery, human. You make me feel alive and terrified at the same time." "That's called being in love," he said quietly. She blinked. Love. The word rolled off her tongue as if it were both foreign and sacred. "We have no word for that on Virel Prime." "Then you can borrow ours," he said with a grin. Her eyes softened again. "And if I accept?" He stepped forward, closing the space between them until their reflections merged in the dim blue light. "Then I'll make sure you never forget what it means." For a long heartbeat, neither moved. The ship was quiet now, the stars steady beyond the window. Then she whispered, "Human, you are dangerous." He smiled, "Only to your logic." She looked up at him, her voice trembling just slightly. "Then perhaps logic can die happy." And in that fragile, perfect silence, she leaned in, not a full kiss, not yet, but close enough that the warmth between them said everything words couldn't. Outside, the ship continued its journey through endless space. Inside, two hearts, one human, one alien, began to beat in the same rhythm, learning the same language, one pulse at a time. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass, calm and bright, like the universe had paused just to watch them. The ship drifted peacefully through open space now, repaired and steady, but Aaron's thoughts were anything but calm. It had been 3 days since the meteor storm, 3 days since that moment, that almost kiss. He hadn't seen Erixa much since then. She had buried herself in research again, as if logic could protect her from what had happened between them. Every time they crossed paths, she gave him the same small, polite nod, the same calm voice, but her eyes betrayed her. They glowed a little brighter when they met his, and then she would quickly look away. He tried to tell himself to be patient. Zelari weren't like humans. They didn't fall into emotion easily, but patience had never been his strong suit. That night he found himself once again in the ship's garden deck, a quiet place filled with bioluminescent plants and softly humming air filters. The flowers there glowed in gentle shades of blue and pink, swaying like they were breathing. It was his favorite place to think, or maybe to hope. The doors opened behind him, and before she spoke, he already knew it was her. "You always come here," Arixa said softly, her voice echoing slightly in the still air. He smiled without turning around. "Maybe I was hoping you would too." She walked up beside him, the soft light of the flowers painting her skin in color. "You should be resting," she said. He laughed quietly. "You tell me that a lot." "Because you never listen." He looked at her then, and for a moment he forgot how to speak. She wasn't wearing her usual uniform. Instead, a simple white tunic shimmered faintly around her like starlight. Her hair fell loose down her shoulders, glowing faintly under the soft lights. She looked almost unreal. "You look," he stopped himself, smiling. "Never mind, I'd sound like a bad poet." Her lips curved faintly. "Say it." "You look like something the stars would envy," he said. Her eyes softened, and for the first time she didn't look away. "Humans," she whispered, "always finding beauty where they shouldn't." "Maybe that's what makes us human," he said. "We see light even in things that scare us." For a while neither of them spoke. The hum of the ship faded into silence. The air felt alive. Then she asked, "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" "Everything," she said quietly. "The storm, the danger, the emotions." He looked at her for a long time. "No, not 1 second." She seemed to study him, her gaze full of something fragile. "I have tried to understand what this is," she said. "This feeling when I see you, it makes my pulse unsteady. My thoughts blur. It frightens me." "Yeah," Aaron said softly. "It scares me too." "Then why do you continue?" "Because some things are worth being scared for." She looked down, her fingers brushing against one of the glowing flowers. "On Virel Prime," she said quietly, "connection is logical, predictable. Two partners align energy for the purpose of balance. It is controlled." "And with me?" he asked. She lifted her gaze to his. "With you there is no balance, only chaos, fire. I do not understand it, and yet." He smiled, "And yet. I do not wish it to end." For a second, Aaron forgot to breathe. The soft light reflected in her eyes made her look more human than ever, vulnerable, uncertain, and completely breathtaking. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. Her skin was cool and smooth, but the warmth between them felt like gravity pulling them closer. "You don't have to understand it," he whispered. "Just feel it." She exhaled softly, and for the first time she didn't fight it. She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel her heartbeat, a faint hum, steady and strange but perfectly in sync with his own. "I have never done this before," she said quietly. "Neither have I," he said. "Not like this." She tilted her head, curious. "Not like this." He smiled. "Not with someone who feels like the universe." Her eyes shimmered again. "You speak as if I am made of stars." "Maybe you are," he said softly. "Maybe that's why I can't stop looking." Her breath caught and her voice dropped to a whisper. "Human, why are you watching me?" He smiled at the words, the same ones she had said the day they met, but now her voice was softer, full of warmth. "Because every time I look away," he said, "I think I might wake up." For a heartbeat the ship seemed to vanish around them. There was only her, only that moment. Then she leaned forward, her forehead resting gently against his. The soft hum of her energy brushed against his skin like a current of light. "Then do not wake," she whispered. He closed his eyes, not planning to. The silence stretched between them, warm and infinite. The universe outside went on, stars burning, planets spinning, galaxies colliding, but inside that little garden time stood still. After a while she pulled back slightly, her hand still holding his. "You humans," she murmured, "you turn everything into story." "Maybe," he said, smiling, "but this one's my favorite." Her lips curved into that faint, teasing smile he'd come to love. "And how does it end?" He grinned. "I'm hoping it doesn't." She looked at him for a long time, as if weighing the truth in his words. Then quietly she said, "Perhaps it will not." They stood like that for a long time, under the glowing flowers and the silver light. The air felt alive with something new, not logic, not science, but something messy and beautiful and real. Later, when they finally left the garden, they walked side by side down the quiet corridor. No words, no need, just the soft sound of their footsteps and the shared rhythm of their hearts. But somewhere deep in the ship, far below the decks they knew, a faint red light flickered on. A silent system began recording, its sensors focusing on the last place they had stood together. Unseen, unheard, a small transmission began to send, coded data carrying their names. Aaron Blake, Arixa of the 5th Nebula Fleet. Target flagged, observation active. The stars outside sparkled as if they knew something was coming, something neither of them could see. And as the ship sailed quietly into the unknown, Aaron reached for her hand again, smiling softly. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we'll face it together." Arixa looked at him, eyes glowing with that strange light that was no longer just Zelari, a light that now held a piece of something human. "Yes," she said, her voice firm but tender, "together." And somewhere far away, beyond the stars, the universe smiled, because even among endless galaxies and cold silence, something as small and impossible as love had found a way to shine.